Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of Mango's Void. I am in my hijab.
Yes. This is your new era.
This is my new era. No, can I tell you guys a fun little story before we begin our episode? Because in this episode, I do want to talk a little bit about beauty and the future of beauty. I have been growing out dreadlocks, or locks, as we call them, in 2023. Yeah. And, you know, it means I wear a lot of headscarves now because they're still starter locks. They don't always look good. They get dry sometimes, or just I'm lazy. So I've been wearing a lot of headscarves. And I've noticed that a lot of people think I'm Muslim now.
Yes.
People even ask me, are you Muslim, by the way? Before they, say anything crazy. They're always like, by the way, are you Muslim?
Yeah.
And I'm always like, no. And then they continue to spew garbage. But what I've realized is that there's a lot of dignity in being perceived as a Muslim black woman.
Yes.
My life has improved tenfold. I don't know much about Islam, I'm going to be honest. I don't.
You don't know the five pillars?
I don't know the 5 pillars. Okay. But I think they made some points with hijab. Yeah. I actually think I'm so much more respected. I'm not perceived as a sexual object when I'm walking outside. Men leave me alone. It's like, why don't we all wear hijab?
Yeah.
Every day.
I mean, I'm not allowed to say that, but go on.
Yeah. And now I'm looking at Western feminism like, wait, you guys led us astray. You had me out here with my ass out, with my titties out, being objectified, being groped, being followed in the streets, when I could be living like this.
Yeah.
But that was just a very random tangent.
Yeah.
Because in this episode today, in big 2024, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
In this episode today, we want to talk about the future, where the future is going. And I've divided up this conversation into a few categories. So we want to talk about the future of love and relationships and sex. We want to talk about the future of beauty, as I've so briefly touched on. We want to talk, too, about the future of health and wellness, the future of tech, as well as the future of transportation and politics. So which one should we start with today? Should we start with love?
Let's lead with it.
Let's lead with love. Okay, Diddy.
Absolutely.
Okay, Diddy.
Don't get...
Let's lead with love. Let's lead with love today.
What are your thoughts? Where are we going? Where are we taking the love train?
We're going back.
No.
In time.
No.
We're going back in time.
Okay.
How far back? We're going like primitive.
Okay.
My prediction for the future of love is that we're going back to polygamy.
Yeah.
We're going back to polygamy.
Yeah.
But and this is something that you say.
Yeah.
We're going to gender neutral polygamy.
Yeah.
Gender inclusive polygamy. Because in the past, economic and political power was only afforded to men. But now that women have kind of been let into the economy, we have some rich women too. And I think as wealth accumulates into the hands of fewer and fewer people, men and women, and everyone in between, those fewer and fewer people will create harems.
Yeah.
And they will be polygamous.
You're saying Ice Spice is getting a harem?
I don't know about Ice Spice.
Rihanna.
Because I want to talk about beauty. Rihanna.
Yeah, she's going to have a compound with some niggas on it.
Rihanna is going to buy an island and just put niggas on there. Just men.
When I'm 40, I'm like making Surviving Rihanna.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's where we're going?
Yeah.
I could see it.
The men who have accumulated the most political and economic power will link with the women who have the most beauty, and they will all create their own feudal harems. So we were driving around Johannesburg today.
Yes.
And
which is the future, by
Johannes, if you want to know where society is going, come to Johannesburg.
Yeah.
You need to come here. You will know everything you need to know. We were driving around Johannesburg today, and we noticed a lot of new developments on the up and up. And the developments coming up are really, really interesting to me because I was born when Nelson Mandela was let out of prison. And so this was the dawn of the new democracy in South Africa when Black people got rights. And so at the time, I lived in Johannesburg South. And that's when estates were becoming popularized. You know, just estates meaning a big, I don't know, how do you describe an estate to an American?
Yeah, there is estates in America.
Oh, are there?
Yeah.
Like they are in like Calabasas.
Yes.
But like, except here in South Africa, estates are for lower middle class and above. In America, estates are for like Kim Kardashian and the billionaire elites.
Yeah.
So we started doing estates like 30 years ago because the country was getting really dangerous, and every estate had a bunch of houses and or townhouses inside, and around the estates were electric fences to keep the criminals out. Not are. This is still the system we live in.
Yes.
And now the estates have expanded outside of just being residential estates. They now are residential estates with schools, with grocery stores, with gyms, with restaurants. They're essentially feudal enclaves.
Yes.
Where people live so that they don't even have to leave ever.
Yes.
Because what's outside of the feudal enclave is pure anarchy.
Yes.
And that's where the world is going. And I think the effect that this will have on love and love relationships is that the owners of these feudal estates will have harems. And in exchange for sex, consistent sex, you will get housing. And if you're not a baddie, if you're not a baddie, you will be a slave in the feudal enclave. And in exchange for your labor, you will get housing and security. And that's just where I think the world is going.
No, absolutely. You know, I think when people imagine the future, they either imagine these extremely dark Hunger Games-esque terrible scenarios, or they imagine this like perfect Jetsons futuristic flying car robot scenario. And the truth is that it's actually going to be both. And that's where South Africa is this extremely prolific example of where the world is going. You're going to get your nice Italian tile and your nice German appliances and all these things, and it's going to be surrounded by an electric fence.
Yes.
Because it's fucking crazy outside.
Yeah, it's pure anarchy.
And that's also where California is going. California, the crime rate's actually pretty similar to South Africa. That's where that's going as well, too.
Yes.
And it's going to be about who's inside the wall and who's outside the wall.
Yes.
And in Johannesburg, they have extremely advanced biometric technology where it's like everyone in your family can be inside the estate just by tapping your finger.
Yeah.
And everyone not, let's put the gun in their face.
Yes.
You know, because who the fuck are you? Do you live here? Do you?
Yeah.
And right, that is going to be given to everyone. You know, it's like you said, that's not just something for extraordinarily rich people in South Africa. It's for anyone who has like 2 pennies to rub together.
Yes.
Because the outside is craziness. Yeah, no, I think you're dead on with that one. What else?
What is the future of sex given this? Are we heading towards sexlessness or sexfulness? How will polygamy affect our sex lives in the future?
You know, and I hate to say this, we've created a society that has normalized sex so much. And that's not even a bad thing, but like we just talk about it all the time. You just see it on your phone randomly all the time. I think we're going to become so inundated with sex that we actually get bored with it. And you can already see that trend happening with how much less Gen Z has sex. Somehow we're the most like liberated sexual generation ever. Yet like every single 18-year-old is like afraid to touch someone of the opposite sex. And I think just because it's boring, it's just, I don't think that sex was ever supposed to be, people aren't gonna like this, but this completely accepted and non-taboo thing. I actually think it is the taboo that creates the desire. You know what I mean? I think it's the hijab that's like, oh my God, what's under there? You know, like mystery. And we've gotten rid of all mystery. It's like, you know,
it's labia on the timeline.
Yeah.
It's clitoris on Twitter.
and
it's,
that's not bad for any moral reason or any.
Yeah.
It's mostly just like going to take the fun out of things. You know what I mean? By the
yeah.
time you're sitting down at the Cheesecake Factory on the first date, like you've seen my gooch, I've seen your labia. Like, where's the
Yeah.
fun in that?
Yeah,
Whatever
there's
happened
nothing
to
to explore.
some mystery?
I do think that the paradox of eroticism is that it does require an element of danger.
Yeah.
Eroticism thrives in environments, and this is not me like promoting rape. I'm not talking about rape. I know someone's gonna take it there. I'm not talking about rape, but I'm talking about like, oh, we're having sex at the back of the classroom.
Yeah.
You know, just like eroticism requires an element of danger. It requires an element of, you know, and I think this is my theory about why the queer community is so hypersexual. I think like for so many years, being gay was illegal and taboo and looked down upon. And I think in a lot of ways, that sort of like made sex better for...
I literally have gay friends that have told me this.
No,
literally.
literally,
I have
you
gay
know?
male friends that said, like, they're older. They're in their
Yeah.
40s and their 50s. And they were like, we used to be cool.
Yes.
We used to be about going out, doing
Yeah.
drugs, having fun. And in the fight for equality, which was an important fight, we almost inherited all of the boring normiedom of
Yeah.
like cis-het couples. And now it's just like
Yeah.
you get a dog and you get the fence and you sit in the
Yeah.
and there are a lot of gay people that are like rejecting that because all it was them trying to become a part of homogenous white cishet society.
Right.
The goal was to kind of be like a functional Caucasian nuclear unit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's not that fun. That will take the spice out of
No.
something.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
think
mean?
also just the pursuit of feminist equality has also ruined sex for women.
Explain.
Because I think that power dynamics are sort of the foundation of eroticism.
Yeah.
And therefore, eroticism and romanticism are sort of at odds.
Yeah.
Because in order for a romantic partnership to work, we do need to be equals. I need
Yeah.
to respect you, you need to respect me.
Yeah.
In order for an erotic dynamic to work, I need to be a sub, you need to be a dom. There has to be some sort of power play
Yeah.
to create this element of danger.
Yeah.
Because what is the role of sex in our society today? What is the role of sex for human beings? The role of sex is to go behind the norms. It's to sort of escape the respectability politics and the norms of everyday hegemonic society and explore the parts of us that are foul.
Yeah.
And the parts of us that, you know, the parts of us that we cannot
Yeah.
portray
Yeah.
to normal hegemonic society.
Yeah.
Sex is the platform for those parts to come out
Yeah.
and for us to honor those parts. And I think in the pursuit of sexual liberation and
We fucked it up.
liberating us,
Yeah.
from the taboos of the parts of us that are supposed to be kept hidden from polite society,
Yeah.
we actually eroded
Yes.
eroticism.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think through the pursuit of equality, and I'm not saying equality is bad, but I'm saying this is
It's
the
the
cost.
trade-off. There's no
This is the
solutions,
cost.
only trade-offs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the pursuit of equality, we've eroted eroticism. And in just in the pursuit of tech being the driver of connection, also eroded romanticism.
Definitely.
And so we've just like gone at both of those constructs
Yeah.
that were already at odds to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, the future for both are just kind of looking grim, because even when you talk to the average woman in Johannesburg, they're just like, you know, I found this guy. He's got money. Do I love him?
No.
What's love got to do with it?
Right.
You know? So it's just no. I need a house.
Yeah.
I need a man who can provide kids.
Yeah.
In other words, I need a feudal overlord
Pretty much.
to provide me with the security and stability
Yeah.
from the outside anarchy of the world. And in doing that, we
Yeah.
eroded romanticism. At the
Right.
same time, I need to be your equal, bitch. Like, at the same time, I'm a feminist.
Right.
And so then we eroded eroticism. And
Right.
now here we are, the most sexless, single, and lonely generation
Yeah.
to ever exist.
You know, I think deep down what it also is in an attempt to normalize everyone's lifestyle so that no one felt bad about their lifestyle, because no one should,
Yeah.
we did bring stuff up to the surface that is far more interesting kept underneath. Imagine being a Gen Z kid going to sex ed.
Yeah.
When I was in sex ed, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, they would just be like, here's a penis and here's a condom and never have sex or else you're gonna die. And I was like, oh shit, that's kind of hot. That sounds kind of awesome. But now in like, I'm sure if you go to like a very, very woke sex positive school or whatever, it's like you have like Mrs. Flanagan saying like, here's anal beads and kids don't be afraid to use these. And you got Mrs. Flanagan in front of you telling you about, you know, how to apply banana-based lube. And it's like, well, that's not hot. I don't want to think about Miss Flanagan.
Yeah, you don't want Miss Flanagan to introduce you to anal beads.
Right, that's all I'm saying. And it's like, you know who has great sex, by the way?
Who?
Catholics. Shame and guilt. And the of age ones. I'm not
Yes.
talking about what they
Not
did
the-
with
okay,
no,
okay,
that
not the
sounded
pedophiles.
a little bit crazy.
Yes.
Of age, extremely repressed Christians, when they get a bit older and they get a bit off the handle,
Yeah.
some great sex.
I
You know what I mean?
see,
But this,
yeah.
you know, when you got woke parents and at 8 years old, they
Yeah.
sat you down and they said, here's the anal beads me and your mom use. You know, if you ever want to borrow our lube, you just come. No, it's supposed to be mysterious.
Yes,
It's
and
supposed to be
hot
hot.
and
It's supposed-
spicy.
And like,
Yeah.
guys, we can't, you need a little bit of shame.
Yeah.
You can't have a completely shameless society.
I think it's also just social media ruined sex a lot because labia can't be on the timeline.
I find like it's
We
too much.
can't-
I'm
we
a
can't have titties on the
red-blooded 20-year-old man, right?
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
it's too much for me. It's
Like-
just too much. I don't put it away.
You know,
Put
we
it away
just-
for a little
It just
bit.
doesn't make for a healthy sexual society
Yeah.
when labia and testicles are on the timeline.
Speaking of this,
Yeah.
another prediction I have for love and sex and romance is it's gonna start getting even more pay to play. You know, we're already paying Tinder $15 a month just so that a woman will look at you.
Yes.
But I saw recently, I don't know if this is completely true, but that Tinder is launching a $500 a month tier because we are putting love in this free market system.
Oh my God.
And what we know about free market systems is that they don't deal well with inelastic products. Inelastic products meaning products that you'd be willing to pay anything for. If your kid gets sick, you'd be willing to pay anything for chemotherapy.
Yeah.
If you're lonely, you'll be willing to pay anything for some
Yeah.
pum pum.
Yeah.
So I think that these capitalists are sitting in their boardrooms in Midtown and going, listen, they'll pay anything.
Yeah.
It's an inelastic product. $500 a month for Tinder.
Yes.
Yes, it's still just going to
Yeah.
be how you go and get coffee before you have extremely bland and meaningless sex, sure.
Yes,
But
yeah.
it's going to be 500 buckaroos a month now.
Wow.
And I think that they're going to start exploiting how inelastic the product of love is. You know what I mean? When you set the price of love up here, there is no market force to bring it back down. It does not snap
Yeah.
back down. It stays there because lonely men will be willing to pay anything. And lonely women will do anything to just not have to eat alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing.
And they're gonna start cranking those prices up. That's my biggest prediction.
Another thing is that apps are inherently addictive. Scrolling is addictive.
Yeah.
And once you're addicted to scrolling for dick or for pussy, the addiction doesn't end when you find someone.
No.
You know, it becomes an endless pursuit
Yeah.
for conquest.
Yeah.
And the thing about conquest is that when you conquer one person, you get a dopamine hit for what? 30 minutes?
Yeah.
And then you need to conquer someone else.
Yeah.
And now that dating apps have made love about conquest, about finding the one, the one that ticks all the boxes and then getting them to fuck, that destroys love.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to see in our generation are a lot of people are going to end up 50
Yes.
and alone. And that's not a bad thing if you're cool with that, but a lot of people won't be cool with it because a lot of people didn't end up there intentionally.
Right.
A lot of men and women in their 20s, they find people that are really solid people and they go, no, but I can do better.
Yeah.
If you're a
Yeah.
man, you're like, well, I'm broke now, so let me wait until I get money, and then I'll be able to get the girl of my
Yes,
dreams. Or a lot of
yeah.
women are like, no, don't settle. Like, sure, this man's cool, but he doesn't have money, he doesn't have whatever, so I'm gonna.
Yeah.
And people are going to keep on that train. And one day they're going to wake up and they're going to be 57 years old.
Yeah.
And they're going to realize that the best guy I met was actually the guy who proposed to me at 25.
Yeah.
It's actually the woman that was willing to be with me at 27.
Yes.
But I said no.
Yes.
Because I just saw a girl with a fatter ass on my phone.
Exactly.
Or you know, a
Yeah.
guy with a boat took me to Greece once. And I'll just be on that hedonic treadmill constantly. And a lot of
Forever.
people in this next century are going to wake up and be 57 and alone.
Yeah.
And really wish they went with that person that showed kindness to them sincerely.
Yeah.
And wasn't interested in material things or anything, you know?
Speaking of, what do you think is the future of beauty?
Interesting.
Because I think we've gone so far
Yeah.
into Instagram being the template of beauty, Facetune being the template of beauty. You know, we've just gone so far
Yeah.
that I think the future of beauty goes into the direction that the future of health goes into, which is medieval times.
Yeah.
I think
I completely agree.
we're about to enter the era of plastic surgery regret.
Yeah, and removal. I mean,
Yeah.
I can only speak from like a male's perspective.
Yeah.
But if I see one more white woman with artificial lip fillers with like an extremely dark spray tan, you know, Instagram face,
Yeah.
I'm gonna lose my men. And it's sad because it sucks that the world just moves to any of our arbitrary preferences. Around.
Yeah.
But men
Yeah.
are getting tired of that aesthetic of the perfect transracial,
Yeah,
almost like
it's this, like,
Kardashian
biracial-
influenced beauty aesthetic.
yeah.
And we're starting to like really like what we call like natural women, which aren't actually even natural
Yeah,
women. It's more like
yeah.
women making a curated aesthetic of what natural looks like for the
Yes,
male gaze.
yeah,
But
yeah.
whatever that is,
Which is still for the male
Which
gaze,
is still
so
for-
it's just not radical at all.
yeah, but that's where the male gaze is going. And if we're not going to do anything about patriarchy, that will also be where women's gaze is going as well too. We're into natural. And mostly it's because, in my opinion, when I think of women that look like Kylie Jenner, right?
Yeah.
I think of Instagram. And Instagram makes me feel like shit.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter how perfectly symmetrical someone's face is, or how plump their lips are, or how fat their fake ass is. It's like you are reminding me of a stimuli that I hate.
Yes.
So when
that
I
makes
see
us feel bad.
exactly when I see women that have that completely curated fake Instagram existence, it actually makes me feel terrible.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of men feel that as well. And the dialectical response to that has been the male gaze moving from that perfectly symmetrical and curated and polished feminine form to like a far more natural, still perfect,
Yeah.
but natural looking feminine form.
What I find interesting is the racification of natural versus unnatural beauty.
Definitely, yeah.
Have you noticed that unnatural beauty is inherently black and ethnic?
Yeah.
The plastic surgery
Yeah.
body
Yeah.
is just a cartoonish black woman's body.
Yes.
It's a tiny, tiny waist and a huge ass and
Yeah.
big titties. It's
Yeah.
very balloonish, really big lips and really like, you know? But the organic beauty standard is skinny, Scandinavian, blonde, blue-eyed woman with no makeup.
Yeah.
And there's an inherent racism in that.
It's continue. I've been picking up on this as well.
Yeah, especially there's an inherent racism in that because
Yeah.
it denies black women the ability to be beautiful.
Yes.
It's this idea that in order to be black and beautiful, you do need to be a cartoon character. You do need to distort yourself in the most unnatural of ways. But when we're going back to organic, that is completely accessible for white womanhood because what
Right.
it means to be an organic, natural body. You know, you've noticed now the Kardashians have started taking out their plastic surgeries.
Yeah.
They've started taking out their ass. They're going back to being skinny because they're like, yeah, we played around with blackness.
Yeah,
It's
we
been
had our black
fun.
kids.
We had our black kids.
Yeah.
We had our black little boyfriends. We ruined their lives. It's been real. It's been fun. But now let's go back to being serious.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go back to
I
being
have to
serious.
be a lawyer now. That's what she
So
said.
let's go back to being white.
Yeah.
And whiteness is just seen as this, like, now that this is when they take off their plastic surgery.
Yeah.
They take off their makeup. they don't take off their makeup, but they're doing the no makeup look now.
Yeah.
You know, whereas when they were cosplaying blackness, it was highlight, contour to the gods, you know. And
But by the way, this has always
yeah.
happened. Like, white people have always used engaging in blackness, you know, tussling around in the niggery as a
Yeah.
fun thing to do in their
It's
youth.
fun.
Before, you know, like, have you noticed like every young Gen Z person just has a black scent? Like, you know, you like listen to like Billie Eilish talk, and she's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you know. And then, you know, when Billie Eilish turns 38, she's gonna get
Listen.
some yoga pants,
Exactly.
throw that shawl on, and be
Yeah.
a middle-aged white.
Exactly.
Our culture is just something that white people dilly and dally in.
Yeah, for funsies.
Before they have to get serious
Yeah.
and inherit their dad's contracting
Yes,
business.
I view blackness as, you know, when white people go to a Thai restaurant and they're like, ooh, let's sit on the ground and eat with our hands and eat with chopsticks.
Yeah.
But then they go home
Yeah.
to they're like, no, we're not going to do that every day.
That's a great analogy. It's their year abroad.
Exactly.
You know, it's the fun thing you do in college. You know, let me
Yeah.
get braids. Let me get lip
Yeah.
filler.
Let me
But
talk like this.
best believe
Yes.
when Chad from the Hamptons proposes to them, they're pulling the ass out.
They're taking that shit out.
deflating the lips.
Yeah.
They're wiping off all of that spray tan, and they're gonna be middle-aged white women.
Exactly.
Because, and this is something we were talking about before, being a well-to-do middle-aged white woman has become the ideal that all women strive towards.
Interesting.
Isn't it weird to you that all these like divine feminine influencers, all of these like hypergamy, sprinkle type influencers, the lifestyle that they're trying to pitch to like women in their late teens and early 20s
Yeah.
are the lifestyle of like 48-year-old extremely wealthy white women. This like, I wake up, I don't work, I go to yoga, I sit on the couch with a cat, I drink a cute little tea. That's
Yeah.
never been a normal aesthetic for any like young working class woman. But these women are like watching these images. It's like, oh my God, if I work, I must be an ugly bum.
Yeah.
Or like, oh my God, if I'm not. But it's like, that is an extremely unrealistic standard.
Yes.
But it feels like they've convinced all women to strive for that now. Like now black women want this like cottagecore, soft life, I don't work life. Asian women want it. But the standard is just being a white woman.
Yes.
Hey guys, friendly reminder that this is just a short snippet of the episode. If you'd like to listen to the full episode, you can either click the link in the description box below or head to patreon.com/bobosvoid. That is patreon.com/bobosvoid, or just click the link in the description for the full episode. Thank you for listening.